Well, the nation's top intelligence and defense officials raising new concerns over Al-Qaida growing a presence inside Syria. National Intel Director James Clapper and Defense Secretary Leon Panetta addressing their concerns with Congress. Take a listen.
We believe that Al-Qaida in Iraq is extending its reach into Syria. I think it will just continue. We don't see any short of a coup or something like that Assad will hang in there and continue to do as he's done.
It does raise concerns for us that Al-Qaida is trying to assert a presence there, and that means that, frankly, our concerns, which were large to begin with because of the situation, the deteriorating situation in Syria, that the situation there has become that much more serious as a result of that.
John Bolton, the former U.S. ambassador to the UN and a Fox News contributor, joins us now with more insight. First of all, thank you for joining us this morning.
Glad to be here.
So James Clapper went on to describe this relationship, Al-Qaida on the rise in Syria, as a marriage of convenience with Iran. So I ask you, how great is this threat, and why should we be concerned?
Well, it's a very curious threat in a sense, since Iran backs the Assad regime. They've got a lot at stake in keeping that regime in power, and yet Al-Qaida has apparently been carrying out attacks in Syria against the regime. Now, some have speculated that this is really a double game, that Iran and Al-Qaida are cooperating to infiltrate the opposition. But in any event, what it shows is that Al-Qaida, whether aided by Iran or on its own, is still a very clear threat in the Middle East and around the world. And the idea that Al-Qaeda has been bottled up along the Afghan-Pakistan border and been debilitated there, sadly, is far from the truth.
And this lack of unified opposition in Syria leaves a lot of holes to be filled, right?
No, exactly. There are possibilities of splitting the opposition. And let's be clear here, Syria is very different from the other countries of the Arab Spring. Not that that's turned out so well, but Iran's prepared to shed a lot of Syrian blood to keep Assad in power. And so it wouldn't surprise me that they would turn to almost anybody for assistance to accomplish that objective.
You know, and all of this is starting to come out on the heels of this investigation that's already underway of these 5 Al-Qaida leaders who have been under house arrest, who have allegedly, for years, and have now been released. Do you see a correlation there?
Well, I think that the possibility of cooperation between Iran, the regime in Iran, and Al-Qaeda has always been there. You know, people say, oh, well, Al-Qaeda is Sunni and Iran is Shia. Look, they're both extremists theologically, and never forget the saying in that part of the world, I against my brother and I against our cousin, all of us against the stranger. That could be what's going on.
And what about the extensive network of chemical weapons sites that are there in Syria? How concerned should we be about that? And is that something that Iran has its eye on?
Absolutely. Look, the chemical weapons capabilities of Syria are far, far in excess of anything that existed in Libya. And it's not just chemical weapons. Let's not forget, in September of 2007, Israel destroyed a nuclear reactor being constructed there by, of all people, the North Koreans. Almost certainly we will find that was a joint venture with Iran, and my guess is there are other clandestine nuclear weapons activities being conducted by Iran with Syria, somewhere inside Syria. That's a pretty good way to hide what you don't want international scrutiny to find. So again, what this underlines are the stakes for Iran in not letting the Assad regime fall.
Yeah, and it takes us back full circle. You can see how it's all connected to this possible nuclear threat from Iran. And finally, as we wrap up, how great is that threat, realistically?
Well, the Iranians are getting closer and closer, and despite the increased threat to Iranian oil, they're going to find ways around that. They'll sell their oil, they'll get paid for it, and they will continue to march ever closer to a nuclear capability. Once they cross that line, the world will change forever.
Let's hope they don't. Thank you very much, Ambassador Bolton. We appreciate it. Thank you.
He's been watching that story every day, and will continue to.